Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Saga and Tommy today here again to discuss the PvP changes that we have for 1.0 of TEMTEM, which is supposed to go live very shortly. So without further ado, let's jump straight into those changes first. Tommy, how are you doing?
Doing pretty well. I'm excited for 1.0 and I'm looking forward to seeing what these changes will do to the meta.
Yeah, the patch changes are starting pretty spicy by itself. The max turns used during a competitive battle has been reduced from 30 to 25. Do you think that drastically changes a lot of stuff, or you think it's okay?
The only thing it hurts is pretty much these style players and style teams that are kind of reliant
Mm-hmm.
on getting to turn 30. I would argue that style teams that simply rely on turn 30 aren't the greatest anyways in the first place, but
Mm-hmm.
all style teams do have the capability of going to turn 30 if they need to.
Mm-hmm.
And the removal of 5 turns could actually be pretty huge.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it will. This definitely hurts stall to some degree. Not crazily, but it definitely does hurt stall.
I mean, I do feel
And
like as a stall player myself that some games are done by turn 10, but the other person just doesn't want to concede and they will drag you to turn 30. Even if they know that they can't win this, they're just gonna take you there, kind of thing. So I guess for some scenarios it's okay, it's good, but yeah, this is a hit to stall players in general. Next up,
mm,
time for battle box selection phase in competitive battles from 60 to 30. I think it's fair. Only person that might be affected by this is someone who maybe gets disconnected. Then yeah, he has less time to reconnect. But other than that, I think it's a good change, right?
yeah, aside from the disconnection, this is fine. Like reducing time there is perfectly okay. There's no issue with that whatsoever.
Turn time and
Aside from
compare. Mm-hmm.
aside from the disconnection issue as you mentioned earlier. Okay.
That's fair. Turn time in competitive battles 40 to 30 and reserve time from 120 to 90. I still think it is okay and good enough. Maybe it might affect a little bit in dojo wars or something where people are trying to help each other out because there's less time to communicate. But overall, I think it's a good change.
I have mixed opinions on this. Sometimes I understand that they want to reduce the game length so people can play more games in a
Mm-hmm.
shorter time frame.
Mm-hmm.
But I this is the second time they fit time in TEMTEM. I think the first time was necessary. This time I think it might be a bit unnecessary, to be honest, but that is to be decided. I like having my timer and using it effectively when I feel like I need it to think of possible scenarios, maybe do some calcs. Maybe that's what Temtem or Kama wants to do. They want
Mm-hmm.
you to just play the game without needing extra synthesis from like Team. So they just want, I don't know, maybe that's their intention. Kinda not the biggest fan of the timer changes, but we'll see how it goes.
All right, next up we have Temtem changes, the fall of neutrals and the rise of mentals. First up, Moflank. Looks like defense has been reduced and stamina has been reduced as well. Moflank is not that much of a stamina heavy tem either ways, but you think the nerf is good enough here? Because he was bulky, physically bulky.
Uh, it definitely hurts Mooflank. Mooflank originally never had stamina problems, but losing 8 base stamina might be somewhat big, and it can't just be a tem that keeps on going and going and going and just hits you over and over and over again without needing to OX.
Mm-hmm.
The defense nerf hurts it for sure because there's just some overall bulk. It's nothing too crazy. It keeps its attack is still intact. It didn't lose like base HP, which would be just worse
Mm-hmm.
for it compared to just a defense. But yeah, this definitely hurts Smoothline for sure.
Gialis again, HP has been reduced from 86 to 79, so I guess this impacts mirroring directly as well because the base HP is going down, so would be less damage taken, right? Or is it like straight up percentage scale?
The less HP you have, the less damage you reflect back with mirroring. So it definitely hurts mirroring Gallus, and it makes Gallus harder to play because Gallus is a turn 2 tem and
Mm-hmm.
needs to get to its like pretty mediocre or like semi decent turn 1 to have access to all of its tools. And so leading Gallus is a bit harder as the tem is frailer. They just lose 7 base HP. and it might become more reliant on swapping it in as well. Maybe people will invest more in HP on their yellows to like to make up for this this HP nerf. Yeah, this definitely hurts yellows for sure. 7 base HP is a lot.
Next up we have is 𝗂𝗨. Looks like it got a small buff, but other than that, it looks like it's fully been gutted down here. Attack increased from 77 to 80. Show off has been removed. Cold-blooded has been removed, and warm-blooded has been added as a possible trait. So if I remember warm-blooded correctly, it means that it won't be frozen, but it will not get the regenerating saps. So it does look like 𝗂𝗨 is going to be more of a tanky-ish term rather than a one that can do everything, because show off being gone, it cannot get attacks up anymore by himself.
I honestly like this change. I think what this does is people will probably convert or consider converting back to comeback 𝗂𝗨 to maximize its damage output once again, because it did just lose show off, which is a really good way for it to ramp up its damage over time. And yeah, I like this change. I think removing show. Honestly, I've always been a believer of removing show off or either hibernate, one or the other, in order to balance 𝗂𝗨, and hibernate is on brand for 𝗂𝗨, it being a polar bear. So I think removing show off is good, and it make it rely more on comebacker for damage. But we'll see. Maybe people will still play warm-blooded. Maybe they like the sustain. But if you want to like get your damage back from the loss of show off, I think you just go back to comebacker once again.
True. Looks like the next up we have is 𝗬𝗨. HP increased from 50 to 56. Defense increased 68 to 71. Special defense from 61 to 65, and stare has been added to its move pool.
Honestly, this change is pretty dope. This is great for 𝗬𝗨. There is another change that is later down the pattern I will get to. But I think 𝗬𝗨 is now actually respectably tanky now. And with its trait that was considered its off trait that protects it from like super effective moves, now you have a pretty decently bulky mental tem. And yeah, I think 𝗬𝗨 is going to be in the meta now for sure, without a doubt. And I look forward to seeing it being played as a legitimate tem and not just as a shock value or a meme or a gimmick.
That's fair. Yeah, I can see that happening as well. Next up, our record-holding nerf taker, Mr. Kino, coming up here. Stonewall has been removed from its move pool. I think this is 7th Kino nerf in a row, back to back. Do you think it was required, or you think Kino is just taking a beating because of 𝗂𝗨 here?
This is probably the first Kino nerf that was unnecessary. As you just said, Kino is getting nerfed because of 𝗂𝗨, not because of itself. And this change in particular hurts the entire star archetype so much as a whole, and they need to find other alternatives to buff Tems or to sustain their Tems as well. So I think this Kino nerf might be bad. It might honestly. I've had some early discussion with other players, and they believe that we might be heading towards a very aggro-centric meta, which is, as we've experienced to 𝗃𝗃𝗃, wasn't very fun. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what star players will find out to mitigate this loss of Stonewall to Kino, if they have to like maybe use Rolder as a Stonewall user, which is not a bad idea actually. I think it's a pretty solid idea. And
I could see his way back into the meta, right? Because he can
for
also
sure.
Stonewall.
And it does have access to double edge, which is protector in a move. So we could see the return of 𝗃𝗃𝗃 as well, but 𝗃𝗃𝗃 has kind of been benched because there have been better alternatives. But maybe with this Kino Stonewall nerf, we might see the return of 𝗃𝗃𝗃 in a competitive play.
Next up, we have the last change, which is 𝗬𝗨. Double gash has been added to its move pool. I guess it's okay. He probably maybe didn't need it, but still is not gonna deny that it's okay to have a turn 1 move, right? Because earlier you only had Wake Up that you could do, or Purgation.
And Jinx Purgation's gone. You had to Wake Up and Jinx Whisper.
Yeah, alright.
Double gash. I mean, it's nice. 𝗬𝗨's move pool is not the greatest, so this helps it very, very nicely, to be honest. So yeah, I'm happy with these changes.
Let's jump into techniques. We have Savage Suplex damage reduced from 140 to 130.
I don't mind if they keep on nerfing Savage Suplex, to be honest. I heard Skunch and 𝗂𝗚
Even
and
120 would have been fine, to be honest, with the exhaust.
120. I think the exhaust is overkill. I don't mind the damage, but the exhaust is overkill on Savage Suplex. But this hits Venks, Venmet, 𝗂𝗚, another 𝗂𝗚 buff, and Skunch. So we're just hitting 4 neutrals in one go, and I like that. I am a neutral hater, so this makes me happy.
Drill impact, damage reduced, 120 to 100. Looks like a straight hit to 𝗂𝗚, to Roller in general, I guess. Been using that a lot.
Losing 20 BP is huge. It's actually huge. So I think what's going to happen is Roller is going to become probably more of a buffer to replace Kino. I could foresee that happening. You can still use it as a damage source, but it's lost 20 BP and it's a turn 1 move. It still has access to Stone Ball, but that's huge stamina investment, and you're normally running reactive while with no stamina item on top of that as well. It's just, yeah, I think Roller might be the new buff time with Stonewall. I think that could be very, very likely, but we'll see. We'll see. Roller didn't get any like.
Base jump damage reduced from 107 to 100.
Bit of a weird one. It's a nerf. I guess it's just a 100 is a cleaner number than 107 kind of thing they're doing
better,
here.
I guess.
Yeah, so it's a weird one. I'll take it though.
Yep.
Another hit to neutrals. I am all for that.
Undermine apparently getting a buff. Stamina cost reduced from 31 to 28. I guess
Kind
it's
of,
okay.
and doesn't really.
Like nobody asked for it. Like nobody said Undermine was not in a good state, anyways. But looks like they thought it's okay to do that. So
I don't even know if this. I don't even know if this is a buff, to be honest, because the TEMs are using 𝗵𝗶,
Ventil, Arachnite.
Ventil doesn't get Undermine. Arachnite.
But actually, no, Arachnite doesn't have. Okay, I'm just outdated. Both of them do not get that.
So it's just 𝗵𝗶. I don't know if there's like a stamina rotation yet with 𝗵𝗶 that this helps with. Volcon has it, Shaolin has it, TEMs have it, but 𝗵𝗶 is the only real like legitimate user of it. I guess it helps with stamina rotations, which is nice, but 𝗵𝗶 is not really too concerned about stamina the way most people are playing it anyways. And it's a weird one. It's a buff, but I don't know if it actually helps it all that greatly.
That's fair. Next up, SCI Wave. Damage increased from 61 to 65. Stamina cost increased from 7 to 10. And on top of its current effects, it now lowers 1 stage of special defense to the target. I think this is the first move with minus special defense, right?
The first offensive move with minus special defense, I believe. So yeah. The question I have is this a 0 hold move? Because this is a move I've probably used once during, like 2 years ago during my first playthrough on my on 𝗏𝗪𝗁. I think I used it probably a couple of times in that playthrough. I don't remember if it has 1 hold or not. If this has no hold, it's effectively a special P-jab that you yeah, it's a special P-jab, but if it's like 1 hold, I think this move is still kind of bad and not worth clicking, especially with the new stat change system. So I think it comes down to the and it's -1 too. Yeah, it's -1. It's not -2 like P-jab, for example. So there's that as well.
Next up, Telekinetic Sharpnel. Hold reduced from 1 to 0, and stamina cost increased from 8 to 14. I still think it's a good turn 1 mental move, right? Sometimes can definitely use it. Focus, I can see you using it if required.
It's amazing. It's actually amazing, and the Pocus, I didn't even think about the Pocus you mentioned would have been great in an earlier patch where Pocus healed from physical moves and not special moves, but this is great for 𝗵𝗂, who now has access to turn 1 mental and turn 1 melee, so his move pool has been effectively doubled more or less. 𝗬𝗨 is now a mental TEM that is respectable, so neutrals actually have to respect it. And the very interesting one, 𝗬𝗏. 𝗬𝗏 now can become a mental turn 1. which is really, really insane, and you can like do some really cool stuff with that. So it gives a lot of TEMs really cool tools, and I'm actually really happy with this change.
Next up, Gamma Burst. Stamina reduced from 42 to 36. I mean, we have heard about it a lot. Gamma Burst is something that everyone, talks about being so much expensive. So I can see why it's a good change, I guess.
Yes, there's a second stamina reduction that's happened to Gamma Boost, and yeah, it's good. It gives Pocus more room to do things with some Gamma Boost Banshees out there as well. It gives them more rooms to do things as well with their stamina and their investments and stuff like that. So yeah, this is a good change.
Next up, we have Horror priority lowered from normal to low. I guess it's fine. People who use it, they already are. Um, it's very barely used, and if it is used, then it is mostly in sleep teams, and you need to make sure you have a sleep lock, otherwise it doesn't work.
The issue with Horror is there's so much anti-sleep with Bait, Chamomile, E-Drink, Sentinel Mogu, sometimes even Trikesh. Horror's issue, the reason why they made this normal to low change is so that you can Hypno and then Horror, like on a consistent basis. But the issue with Horror is not that. The issue is that it's a one hold move. If you look at the late Torment, that's a 0 hold move based on Trap. Nobody's running Grease. There's still Bait Chamomile, but there are less anti-trap tools. I guess Turok exists as well, but people are playing the tactical strike variant of Turok nowadays. So Horror needs to be changed to no hold, in my opinion, for it to keep up with everything else. This change is kind of weird. I see what they're trying to do here, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
Next up, we have Psychic Collaboration. Damage increased from 1 to 20. That's a 19 BP increase on the move itself. I think that's a lot, right? But it still requires the synergy and stuff.
It's still a nothing move. This is basically if you miss Psychic Collab, you don't get super punished really hard, but it's still really bad. Like this is still really bad. If you miss Psychic Collab, you still want that synergy for sure. So yeah, it's just like, hey, if you mess up and your mental synergy gets killed before you can click the move, we'll give you a little bit more damage, That's kind of what this is.
That's fair. Stonewall stamina cost increased from 18 to 25. I guess nothing much, just another hit for stall. They are kind of having a rough one in this patch so far, from what we are reading.
Yeah. So like, even the Stonewall replacements for Kino have to deal with more stamina costs, extra stamina costs. So this is just not good for stall right now.
Purgation. Attack stages raise have been increased from 1 to 2. Priority lowered from normal to low. I guess it's okay. There are some people who are probably gonna run Yowler with, Matcha, Comebacker, and then Purgation on side of it to still get the attack ups on the Yowler. Because people who want to do that are still gonna do that with Yowler Toughen,
Yeah, I don't mind this change to Purgation as the attack stage increase is fine. Reducing it to low means that most TEMs will not be able to use Purgation first before the other TEM can attack, unless you're Minotaur.
Yeah, Minotaur can still get around with this.
Yeah, due to Russia, it will still probably go first, and you can actually hit a TEM with your +2 attack now. So yeah.
Next up, we have Block. Defense stage raise is reduced from 4 to 3. But I don't understand, if they're changing Block, then they should have changed Toughen as well, right? Because they are both available on Yowler, for example. So if this was supposed to hit the Yowler, then it should have been on Toughen as well. Because Yowler can still use Toughen. They have the same stamina. Actually, Toughen is 1 stamina less than Block. And it still gives 4 defensive stages.
I think this is actually a Moment's targeted nerf. It targets Moments and some block Mashooks around. Yeah. So I don't think this is a Yowler. If this was targeted at Yowler, they messed up. They messed up because Yowler uses Toughen, not Block. But that's that.
But that's another, hit to the stall right there. They are taking a lot of them back and forth. Next up, we have traits. Benefactor healing reduced from 10% to 8%. I guess it did a lot in the last meta for them to validate and do a change.
Just as you said, Stall is just getting hit on several sides. You would think they hit neutrals pretty hard, but Star's getting slapped around a bit here as well. I think this is the second patch in a row they've like really hit Star. They do not like 𝗬𝗃𝗃 in the game.
Okay, next up we have mirroring. Damage return reduced from 35% to 25%.
I'm happy. The mirroring Gallus is disgusting. It was sending way too much damage back. And I'm happy they like realized that this is a problem and they reduced it by 10% more.
Next up we have heater. The bone status condition is now applied to the ally item as well. I guess a small nerf, but I guess it still does the same job on the other side of the field at least.
Yeah, it's a bit more fair. You don't get the free turn one or swap in with like the damage reduction on both of those TEMs. It's a good change. I like it.
Next up we have Brownie. Damage increase reduced from 20% to 15%. Looks like a straight up hit to the Scunchie.
Yeah, Scunch gets hit, and yeah, Scunch turn 2 is a monster. The damage it does is ridiculous, but it's been hit pretty hard. It's lost savage suplex damage, 10 BP on that. Well, it's been hit too. It's lost 10% savage suplex, 10 BP, not percent, and it's lost 5% on Brownie. So it's not going to hit like a truck anymore. It still is a nightmare to face against, but I would imagine. But yeah, Scunch nerf.
Water Custodian, Electric Custodian, both of them. Damage received reduced by 15%. Looks like a Ragnar buff. 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗃 also a little
Yeah,
bit.
this is good. I like this change. It adds more survivability to the TEMs that are redirecting attacks. I think 𝗬𝗃𝗃𝗃 gets hit by some Watt moves and it like loses close to 20%, which is kind of sad to look at sometimes. But yeah, these are good changes for these TEMs.
And those were all the traits. And now next up we have gears. Resistance badge. Damage reduced from 15 to 13%. I guess again another hit to the neutrals. And you are all about them.
Yeah, this hits 𝗵𝗃𝗃 in particular.
And Momo if
𝗃𝗃𝗃.
it uses that.
I think Momos have been using nutrition bar more, but yeah, it does also hit the more classic Momo sets.
Marbles HP reduction reduced from 6% to 5%. Stamina reduction reduced from 15% to 10%. Another nerf for the stall.
Well, this nerfs everything kind of, because Marbles is on every kind of team, because the item was really good. The item is still really good, but it's less strong, which is okay. And yeah, I think, to be fair, probably a deserved nerf. Not going to lie, so you can get some insane Marbles value, and that shit ramps up pretty quickly, depending on how often your opponent has to swap to deal with whatever you have on the board.
Next up, the infamous item Nutrition Bar. It will now only trigger with offensive techniques and not like normal anymore. So I guess it is okay. It is in a better spot than before, right?
It's more balanced, but I still don't like the idea of on-hit healing, being hit and healed. I would prefer 4 tons of like leftovers. You get like a percentage heal each turn, regardless of if you're hit or not. But that's my opinion. The item is definitely more bearable now, and it's less strong, a lot less strong, because you don't heal off of like buffing or like a cage or stuff like that, you know.
I see what you mean. And then last item for the changes is refreshing 𝗬𝗃𝗃𝗃. HP and stamina restoration reduced from 40% to 25%.
Pretty big
Yeah,
hit, actually. It's a pretty big hit.
Yeah, I still think 25% is fine. I mean, it's not gonna be like, there's gonna be less matches where it's like, oh shit, I got 𝗬𝗃𝗃𝗃, I should FF.
The item is more fair. I don't think it's trash per se. I think they could have left the stamina at still at 40%. Yeah, I think the stamina could have been the same. The HP reduction probably was necessary. Yeah, it was definitely necessary, the HP reduction. So yeah, I think It's probably deserved. I think the stamina could have been the same, but aside from that, this is definitely a deserved nerf. The item is ridiculously strong, and I'm happy it's kind of been hit really hard as it should have been.
Yeah. But that are all the changes, guys. We have went ahead and did all of them. We are gonna go ahead and go live on Twitch as well. If you guys want to join us, be sure to hop onto the Twitch. I'll drop the link in the description below as well, and we will catch you guys in the next video. We'll be uploading as much content as we can regarding the 1.2 release and all the content that is upcoming. Again, thank you, Kami, for being with us.
Happy to be here and help.
And you all guys have a great 1.0 launch and enjoy the rest of your days and weeks.